Hi, I'm Kingsley from the Networking Institute, and the message we have today really it's about something that I think is probably the single most important skill when it comes to being good at networking. I didn't really appreciate that early in my career, but later on I began to realize just how important it is. So, what is this? The number one skill in networking, I believe, is to be a really great listener. We talk about how networking is all about giving and not getting, and there's nothing more generous than you can give somebody is the gift of rapt attention, absolutely focusing and listening to what they say. But here's the problem: we live in a world where most people don't listen. Most people actually listen to reply. In other words, they're either speaking or they're preparing to speak. They're thinking of what they're going to say while they're hearing what somebody is saying. Many people think that speaking is more important, that listening is kind of like a sign of weakness, of not being an expert. Whereas speaking, it's about action, it's about kind of power, it's about control. And people can't wait to interrupt. They want to wow us with what they think. They want to give us their views and opinions, suggestions. They want to give us their advice. So there are some truths about speaking and listening. The harsh reality is that you learn nothing when you're speaking. You learn everything when you're listening. I mean, when you're speaking, you're only repeating what you already know or what you've maybe recently read. And many people are narcissistic listeners. And by that I mean, if I say to somebody, I'm thinking of buying a car, and they say, I bought one last week. The salesman wanted 20,000. I argued and got it down to 15,000. Supercar, really enjoy. They've taken my point, my story. They've kind of hijacked it and they've turned it into something that they want to talk about. So that narcissism in listening is something we come across very often. We often think that when people have stopped talking, they've kind of stopped thinking. But actually, if you become a genuine listener, if you really engage and help these people really perfect their thinking, and so you've something to listen to, it shows a lot of respect for them. It shows, I guess, that you care. Funny thing is about communications courses, they're often about learning to be better at speaking. But actually, in communications, we do more listening than speaking. But that's just the way things are. So a few tips on listening. I think it's important that you see listening as a form of activity, and that you don't see silence as a problem, if you like. In fact, you can be, the more silent you are, the better conversationalist you can become. Dale Carnegie, who wrote so much great stuff way back, he had a couple of really interesting sort of thoughts about listening. He said, a really good question beats a really good comment. And he said, to be interesting, be interested. People are 100 times more interested in themselves and their interests than in you and your interests. So try not to interrupt. Let people speak. Listen like an interviewer who listens not just to what somebody is saying, but to what they're going to say next. Use interrogatives like who, when, where, why, which, how, that will lead on to other questions. We sometimes say listen with your eyes and speak with your ears. And watch out for body language. Words tell you what people say, but body language tells you what they think. So listen carefully. Use reflective techniques. By that I mean paraphrase what people are saying and repeat it back to them. So you use phrases like, what you're saying is, what I'm hearing is, am I right in saying? These sorts of phrases are very powerful. So the essence then is to be present in somebody else's presence. So let me leave you then on this listening episode today with the quote from George Bernard Shaw. He said, the biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. Worth thinking about.